Is anything going on other than the permanent melting down of Sean Hannity? Am I over the target? Am I over the target? Shut the fuck up and let these ladies talk already. Sarah Carter and who is General Flynn's attorney? The hell's her name? The two of them are dropping bomb after bomb. Apparently there was some holding back of what they call Brady material or exculpatory material that would have shown the innocence of Mr. Flynn prior to him accepting this plea. And now, seemingly, if you look at it from the fact that they knew from the beginning it was a setup, they fucking abused this dude's constitutional rights. And maybe you're like, you know what? Let's see if these fuckos want you to take this ride, and we know why they want you to take it. Then we'll see how many rules they break in order to make this happen. And I believe that's why it's been hung in this position since March, and now it's going to go into October with the final answer coming in December. So that's... Again, if they have McCabe says right out, he didn't have a Logan Act violation, and they had the transcripts of what he said, so that he knew they had him. So he's like, "Do I need an attorney?" They're like, "No, you don't need an attorney." And then that becomes the impetus of supposedly how they tried to set up this special counsel, anything they could do to find any little thread that would take down, to actually overthrow a presidency. And backed by the media, CNN's, how do you say this guy's last name? Shudo. He was, I believe, still a pinned tweet now, a story that's been provably proven false now within, more than likely, within an hour of its publication, realized that they tried to pin the removal of a spy on Trump's inability to lead, when in reality the decision to have this guy removed was done in 2016 by the Obama administration and then followed through by the Trump, and he knew it, and they still know it. And it does not matter what the truth is. It just matters what the truth is as it's pushed by the operatives that push this stuff, whether if it's, the fucking baloney lip Brian Stelter fucking laughing, crying, or whatever he's doing on a day-to-day basis as he stares into a camera and just says, it's fine. I'm sure our side of the aisle, as they hang on to communism, socialism, and taxation beyond money available on this planet, that everybody who disagrees is an enemy. I'm sure that's great for leadership on a mass level. What a just a giant amount of nonsense. And then you want to see another, when the mooch spins off and he talks shit on Trump, and everybody who hates Trump says, "Come on my air and say the things we want you to say." He's saying the things that Donald Trump wants him to say on your network, you fucking dummies. Whether if it's the mooch or Omarosa, Spicer, who's the John Bolton for that matter. You don't think Pence and Pompeo are doing the same exact gig that this guy was doing? He's just another person to spin off and run through the mill. And whatever information they get back is more than likely necessary. But the reality of the fact is nobody's watching. And it keeps going down. MSNBC is literally hemorrhaging human beings who no longer want to hear about their level of conspiracy theory. Or you have CNN, again, it's the same, and it's a flaming house of cards. It's hilarious. So I look at everything, and I've always looked at this because I'm always trying to put a frame on, like, what would have started a military operation against a person, and really detail the amount of intel and subterfuge and setups and all of the work that needs to get done to somebody who let Americans die and responded with, what difference does it make? And, by Kavanaugh rules, the fact that she was loud when she said that, it means she's guilty. Aren't those the rules? Depending on if you're loud, guilty. If you're silent, guilty. If you don't give the answer that we demand to hear, and you do it in a full-throated way in the much that others demand you speak. Boy, that sounds like the freedom that we all want to sign up for. So perhaps they start digging into the banking systems and the people that they're working with. And now we have emails that says, hey, if you want to get something done with the State Department, you make a donation to the Clinton Foundation and you have so-and-so attached to it. And as long as it's done in their name, guess what? You'll get on their radar and you will get the answer that you need done or the decision that you need made. So if you have a couple approaches, you've got government just being crappy from the beginning because of how the fuck greed or whatever, and then you've got the fact that the AI is increasing in its ability to go out and get the information that is available. The information that it is going out and getting is the entirety of the information. It is not an opinion on the information. It is not the right version of it. It is not the left version of it. It is the information in its entirety. What I'm positing to you as a possibility, and it would give credence to why you could have social media companies, Facebook, Twitter, Google, leaning on, well, they're leaning on the search algorithms and they're leaning on the information and flow, because if they didn't, I believe that over probably the last, ever since 9/11, more than likely in the last 20 years, and since it's an anniversary of it today, and it goes back to Benghazi, and it goes back to those people not doing their jobs, that they were aware of the same type of disturbances happening in another place in the Middle East, and yet they all went to bed and did nothing while these great Americans paid the ultimate price for our freedom. Again, what difference does it make is what was said, and that might have been enough for someone to go, oh yeah, fuck you. And let's see how you are involved with the Bush's use of spying after 9/11. If you think about this and the Hegelian dialectic of, I have a unique solution. What do I need to do to have this unique solution? I need to create a unique problem. When I have my unique problem, I can enact the situation that creates the unique problem. And then an unwitting public reacts to this unique public in a way that they're unprepared for, or fear-based, or whatever they've done to the psychology of the news, or however people are being manipulated. And then they act. How do they act? Demanding the unique solution that we already had. So my theory has been that it wasn't 9/11 that was the run-up of surveillance that came from it. What 9/11 was gave us the American buy-in to do the spying we've probably been doing since the early 90s or the late 80s. And seemingly, what does Kissinger say? The fucking, just do it and ask for forgiveness, or the fucking illegal we do immediately. There's some, go look it up. But that's how, if you're in this business, that's how you look and that's how you react. That's what winning looks like. So, in that sense, where the fuck was that going? Oh, shit. Huh. So in that sense, you've got basically the spying operation that happened at the end of the Reagan administration, going into the Bush administration with a handoff to the Clinton administration, and that seemingly continues to go. And then you have the hiccup of the election. That in itself is a test. You have Supreme Court being brought into that decision. Bam, you have 9/11. Patriotism is on fucking 11, or however you want to say it. Put a magnet on your car and support the troops. And we were all on board to sign off on whatever we needed to sign off on, the unique solution that, guess what, had already been implemented and in use since the late 80s through the 90s. So more than likely, that's how this is. Something runs for seemingly large amount of time. It gets too big. It's going to come out. They do something. And in that language, they're able to hide it, or they're able to put perspective on a different place. You don't see it. And what was the thing they did? Oh, when the FISA court was, when they allowed contractors without security clearance to have access to top secret security clearance and 702 information, which is information on United States citizens, which is supposed to be masked. You're not supposed to be able to unsee it. Forget about who was doing the unmasking. 300 Americans were unmasked during the Obama administration. And so what happened is that information, so now they've got raw intelligence, they've got actual American names, it's illegal surveillance, they don't have the yes to do it, and they get caught doing it, and they're like, what are you fuckers gonna do? They tried to write a law so they could make it broad enough and take this activity, and put it under the rug so no one could see it. They couldn't get the law passed, and it's one of my favorite things. And here it is, broken for everyone to see. And you learn this because they already know that the FISA process and Comey getting, whatever his fucking phony dossier got him this FISA warrant. They knew it was bad. That's bad. The whole thing's bad. Everybody knows it. Except now the FISA court is aware that it's bad now. They told them to fix it, which is why if you look at the end of the Obama administration, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fixes came in reclassifications of things and all that, because they were compelled to by the very FISA court that said, I told you guys to fix this. Fix what? The thing way back when you didn't fix that. And so nothing changed. Fusion GPS were the contractors that were looking then. Fusion GPS are the contractors that were the facilitators in getting the Steele dossier out, which they know who paid for it. They know where that money went to sources. They know what sources were told to say what. And all of that information was sent to basically frame a whole operation so you could have on the ground infiltration of campaigns looking for one iota. Because all they need to do is shut this down. If you shut him down, they can maybe take the courts back. This guy flipped the Ninth Circuit. Remember, like, they would have a decision. Everybody like, hey, we got a decision. And some fucko in San Francisco's like, bam, go fuck yourself. Well, guess what? The Ninth tells that guy to go fuck himself. And if he wants to have a rule in San Francisco, if he wants to declare that the NRA is a domestic terror organization, then enjoy being sued until your balls fall off. How about that? Has that been enough show? I don't know. I had to pause here, and I don't know how long I've been talking. Just kidding. I hope your day is going amazing. We've got Sushi High tomorrow. Bohemian Beer Garden is on Sunday. Excited about that. Release dropping on iTunes. If you're sending positive love and energy, my dog Pancake needs she's in need of a surgery, and it's $4,000. So listen to some albums on Spotify, or click like on a video, or send it to your friends, something, and all of this will just continue to grow in the greatness that it is and the glory that is the United States and the freedom and the liberty bestowed upon us at our very inception, that's right, at the moment of conception. That's right, is when your rights were bestowed upon you. And so, further going out. So if you know that the information from the AI, I know the ADD is going great. Anyways, if the information from the AI is running out and going to get it in its fullness, more than likely you had a society that, instead of being straight up and down with the truth, was more than likely shifted hardcore, probably more right than what we thought. And so now, because the information's coming back, it's just the information as it is. It's becoming very obvious that the information is very right-wing, that the fact that they had to lean on the last election, by seemingly 3 to 16 million votes, would lead me to believe that Obama's first term, he barely won. And they had all of this time to figure out what they could do to stem the tide of this country going big and going 100% USA and going riding the nationalistic rise to match the fervor of the Chinese as they go through their nationalistic rise. And as these two powers come together, perhaps there's going to be, well, whether if it's economic or boots on the ground or space war, there will be conflict. And what did your political affiliations, what did your financial and economic contributions to people who were knowingly and actively working with the people's, whatever the Chinese communists are called over there directly, to seemingly hand over the United States and all of its goods to have a fake war of that way while they had a hot war against Russia. That was the plan. Hillary wins, hot war against Russia, big thing coming in North Korea. Here comes Iran. The whole time they're handing all the money out the back door to the Chinese. And when all gets bad, they finish it up. And that's more than likely how it was going. More than likely what they found out when they got inside of that lady's emails and saw all the complicit yes and handshakes and all the backroom deals and selling of special access programs. And that seemingly is why the slow process and the slow rollout of this information. And so now it's you have, FLYNN set up in January 17. It's not until this year, 2019, that you get a verdict. And they're sitting on this verdict. They're waiting on sentencing because they know he didn't do it. And it was a setup. And it's bad. And not only was it bad, this is all they've done. Remember, this is how you get away with things. You say sources and methods. And if I say sources and methods, then guess what? We're just supposed to accept the fact that the decisions that you're making are on behalf of the United States of America and not just you. So what we had found out is that there were decisions that were made specifically against the United States of America, made specifically by people using sources that they called Russian spies. Sources that through vague reporting you could loosely tie to the Russians somehow enough so CNN can sell it. Because they knew what they were doing, and that's when the news had a head start in the information that they were getting. And now the news that we have is completely driven by the White House and completely driven by this operation that is exposing the illegal activity and the anti-American activity that needs to be stripped away if indeed we are going to be a nation going to war against another superpower. And that would be why you would have the rise of the rise in promiscuity. So you would have a generation of veal-like people who would then be the narcs and would be the informants and would be the very quote-unquote executioners or people who would work in state facilities in order to maintain everything that you've seen happen when a police state enters a state of war. That happens. And they believe in their virtue and their right, thinking that they're going to be the ones to do it. What they're unaware of is that the majority of people with the information has been swinging way right. The amount of people in the moderate and the center are going, this is fucking nuts. It's so bad that this guy Trump looks like a great idea. And people are abandoning ship. So more than likely, they're going to run the table in the House. They're going to run the table in the Senate. He's going to win again. And if they have the opportunity, because all they need is 75% in the Senate for them to start packing the Supreme Court. And if all of a sudden you have a certain amount of senators and they know how many are going to be complicit and caught up in this and ripped out of it, who do you think is going to replace those people if you have a society that's running more to the right on a planet that's running more to the right? Because unfortunately the global system and control and lying and this 70 years of progressive liberalism was to sell a police state, to sell communism from a totalitarian perspective, and it just didn't work. And no matter what they did, and no matter how much they try to co-opt language, whether if it's taking the word sovereign and making that a negative word, or perhaps doing things like these social justice moves where I'm going to check you for an unknown privilege, I'm going to stop you for using this word and this word and this, or it's just roadblocks for the sense that you have to, because they're in a completely defensive position. 70 years of failure has led to basically the pendulum swinging the other way, and right in time for our run up to perhaps the next world war. And every century has had one. And what makes you think that you are going to live in a world that is different? So here's my grand theory, is that you either fake a coup because you want to see how the mechanisms go, and you get all your data and you see who's who and who's on team whatever, and you know how it works, or you really caught something and you stopped it and you see how deeply ingrained it goes. And the more successful that is, the more absurd that the media has to flip. Just think about the fact that 2 days ago they said Bolton was a warmongering asshole. Bolton gets fired. They're sucking Bolton's dick. That's how this goes. And now they have to, how do they look at themselves? They have to, because they double down and they double down and they double down. Much like if you're a country that has if you're the first one, I love this, if you're the first one to take a protectionist stance, you'll never come out of it. But in a world where perhaps everybody's going to go protectionist, to be first would be the most advantageous. And to do it, the best way to do it would be to have an outward show of working with the planet, when in reality you are only bolstering our own amazing forces here. To make sure that you get to love your parents, and you get to visit your grandparents' graves, and you get to have the 4th of July and Christmas and Thanksgiving, and you get to walk down the street, make eye contact with people, and enjoy your life. If you realize that, you see how much hate and vitriol, you see the fact that people would take time out of their lives to hunt down people's phone numbers, to call up their places of business, to make sure that they lose money or they lose gigs. And it's such a disgusting, sick thing. And what was really interesting of it is that as that side population diminishes, the amount of activity that they have to do to replace the numbers is unfortunately going to be more vicious. But that population is tiny. It's leaned on the search algorithms to make it look like it's 50-50. It wasn't 50-50. More than likely, when Trump won, it was probably 60-40 or 70-30. And by the time he runs again, we're looking at 80-20 or 85-15. And by the end of his 8 years, you'll probably either hand that over to the AI or somebody within his administration. It's going to be another 4 years like a George Bush. And that's seemingly how they got it done. How many times am I going to say seemingly? But that's it. Who worked with who, and were their activities pro-American? And who worked with who, and were their activities anti-American? And they know, and they have it all. And so that's an interesting time to be alive. May you live in interesting times. I love the fact that it was supposed to be conceived as a threat. So that's interesting. And again, just another hijacking of the leadership in language, because as you understand language and wisdom and understanding, then you understand the beauty of nature, the foundation of reality, anchored as the person giving out loving kindness energy and emanating out that way. Or you can sit online and you can try to have people lose their jobs and then feel really good about it. And then you will feel vindicated when you're sitting at the DSA meeting with your hands over your ears because clapping makes you sad. This is Iron Brigade. I'm John Toll. Whiskey and the Surfer Mondays and Fridays. Full show on Rokfin.com/JT. Again, my class at the Denver Improv. As long as it meets the thresholds of the class, we're going. If it doesn't meet the thresholds, guess what? I'm living my life. So September 14th, we go at it. The showcase is on October 20th. And it's going to be phenomenal if you want to take on writing, if you want to understand different perspectives, if you want to operate inside of your own mind in a different way, if you're trying to get around poor thinking, you want to break a loop that you're in or some kind of a cycle, it's very easy to do. And it's just a matter of you having the very discussion with yourself about the reality that you're having. And I think sometimes we get so inundated, we get so overloaded with information that our unconscious programs kick in because it's so easy to just lump things into giant categories so we don't have to think about them. Orange man bad. And how did a human being go from never ever thinking orange man bad to thinking orange man bad? And how easily was that done? And if you heard Whiskey and the Surfer, there was the gentleman, Dr. Epstein, talking about the Google leaning on the search functions and how their ability to manipulate so many millions of votes and search results because people, they react differently if something, hey, you Google something, what are you looking for? The first thing that's not an ad that you've heard of that looks legit. Okay. In order. It's like a phone book. Except they know that. Apparently there's a psychology involved that they know the kind of people that got driven by that. So who knows? That's it. Do I have anything further? No, that's it. Enjoy yourselves. Whiskey and the Surfer again, weaponsgradefaith.com. And I'll put a PayPal link. I'll put a PayPal link in the video, and if you want to donate to the pancake knee fund, God bless you. So, if not, pray for the nation, pray for your enemies, pray for the soul of the world and the universe that we should all arrive together in the fullness that we have always been, with all the fear and the doubt and all of the illogic and all of the misuse and misapplications of emotions. When somebody does not have a truth, they replace it with their emotion that they call truth and demand that you agree. And it is impossible. It is impossible. Because what they're going to tell you is, aren't my feelings so apparent? How can you not see that my feelings are so apparent? And by that very question, how can you not understand that they've entered into a negative way of speaking in which cannot be logically proven? So that at that point, it needs to be stopped. And you need to say, hey, your emotions are your own. They are a choice. And that God will bless you for the choices that you make every day, in as much as you are focused on those very choices as you make them. Because again, this huge unconscious programming allows people to go orange man bad, red hat bad, Trump supporter bad, whatever this list, giant, thing you putting on people, it's not working. And you really know that they went for it and they missed. The question being, are they going to continue to go for it? How much worse will it get? And you have to see the tide turning. You have to see Chappelle comes on and does his special, and people are like, man, and Burr comes out, he does his special, and they're legitimately special. It's not like fucking, it's such a next level experience to watch, and I love watching people's brains work as they, literally find the pit of laugh out loud funny, which is what the point of this is. So I was in 1987. I believe it was 87 or 88 when I got to see Eddie Murphy at the Concord Pavilion, the Pieces of My Mind tour. He opened with, 5 minutes about fucking people throwing dildos from a helicopter off the stage from San Francisco and trying to fucking hit him with them. And that's how he opened. And he fucking crushed. And back when you loved Eddie Murphy, there were people who didn't. There were people who heard that and they thought it wasn't, what they wanted. Or it was too filthy, it was too raw, to use the title, or whatever it was. There were those folks who were resisting against it. The same people that resist against Limbaugh, the same people that resist against Howard Stern, the same people that resist against whatever the people are choosing to resist against. We know what resist persists. In the same way that atheism keeps God around by the fact that they will tell you all day that the thing that they're talking about all day is not real. Hilarious. But does that mean that you love them less? Of course not. Of course not. That's not the point of all of this. But at the same time, you got to live your life. You're going to be on your deathbed looking back on your life and your time and the decisions that you made and the choices that you made. Why would you give your sovereignty? Why would you give your liberty? Why would you give the very freedoms that you were given to someone else that is completely fear-based and in a scared way, where sounds make their brain go weird and they run around and say that the sky is falling? Whether if it's Orange Man bad or Eddie Murphy is offensive, it was the same shit. And so you just knew that those people existed. And those people are still existing today. Except now, if you think Eddie Murphy's funny and they don't think Eddie Murphy's funny, they're going to call your boss and get you fired. They're going to call whatever and get you kicked out of it. They're going to have you labeled whatever. Your humor is too good for the safety of the citizens of the United States. The problem is those people back then, they bought all the bullshit. I watched them buy all the bullshit from beginning to the end. We grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. Whenever you got punk rock, metal, hardcore, whatever it was, you knew that the government was not to be trusted. But you knew that anything that you needed to do to maintain your very liberty was essential, because you watched the mechanisms of Hollywood working through the CFR to push this, progressive agenda that leads to a full communist totalitarian planet. And so you just learn to look at things from a different way, or always look at things from a couple different ways. There's a lot of reasons why the shows like this don't get picked up. It's because when you have an idea, let's look at all sides. Well, isn't that the idea of looking what for truth is? The truth is the entirety of truth as it's found, and the direction between you not having it and not having it is a straight line, because a straight line is stronger than a curved line. So think about when somebody gets the truth and they put a curved line on it, their own lie version of it does not stand as strong as the entirety of the truth. And you might be able to use the media to fool the morons, but the computers are telling a far different story. So those folks who they didn't like your music and they didn't like Eddie Murphy, and they just say no. The PMRC, Tipper Gore, is going to put a sticker on your record because your record is dangerous. You have Bill Clinton's Boris Yeltsin is my dude. The next thing is Boris Yeltsin says that Putin is a good guy. I did not inhale. I did not have sex with that woman. Here comes the election, and now you've got Al Gore. Hey, attached back from the fucking whatever the fuck, the lady with the stickers on the records that did so well. And now he's telling me in 12 years that the world's going to be underwater at 99. Well, guess what? In 2011, it wasn't underwater. And the same people who said it was going to be underwater in 81, when they said it in 70, were fucking wrong then too. You pay for a model, and you pay for the people to make the model that you tell them to make. That's how that goes. You don't just give scientists willy-nilly money and say, hey, whatever you find out, great. No, you're donating money and giving money for a specific function for a specific scientist to find a specific angle so you can talk about something that will continue to make you money because you have a unique solution. And when you have a unique solution, and you know that there is going to be weather change, that there is, of course, the poles on its normal wobble. You could have a fucking solar flare that whatever our deflection doesn't do as well, and it knocks out the power grid. Whose version of it are you going to believe? Think about that, on how many ways we've been lied to amongst our whole entire lives. Is that a vote? Is that not a vote? Is that a hanging Chad? Why all of a sudden do we need to know about the Supreme Court? And why is that an important part in our current election? And now we need to know that. And now we are all focused on this thing. Al Gore shits the bed Freddie Jackson. He doesn't win, but it allows him to push his global warming garbage. And then here comes 9/11. Boom, the buildings come down. Everybody gets patriotic. They cover up all the surveillance that went through the 90s. And they marched on with their new rules moving forward, complicit with the tools that they've perfected over the last decade. And then you have the financial crisis in '08, and new rules get brought in, and it smooths out what they did from '08 to '01. And then you've got the Trump election, and you've got now that changes, and now you go back and, oh no, what have you found out? That a lot of these things have been sources and methods. And I'll loop this all the way back around. Watch me. Yeah. Again, if your defense is sources and methods, then we're going to expose every single one of your sources to be shown to be already working with your organization, FBI, CIA, whatever alphabet it is. They were already one of you. So for you to be able to lie through the media to say that that's a Russian person, can't get away with it. Especially when we know who they are. Especially when we have the comms on how they got that job and what they did with the information they had and how you sat on that information when it didn't fit your narrative. Methods? Oh, you mean the poor methods that you used when you did the Patriot Act, the poor methods that you used when Fusion GPS was looking at the raw FISA data in 2007 and 2008 and 2009 and 2010 and all of the illegal activity that has now been shown and laid bare. And if that has been connected to anti-American or pro-communist Chinese and they flip the switch on this and we go to war, we're talking property confiscations. We're talking people getting deported. This is all hands on deck. And if people are saying, all right, that the craziest thing coming is artificial intelligence, that a general AI is going to be infinitely smarter than humans within the first second of its existence than we've managed to do in 100,000 years. So wherever it goes from there is where it's going to go. We might be able to hang on and go for the ride. They might just treat us as insects. Or it might be so scary that they do pull the plug on all this and we reset human intelligence via catastrophe or via the fact that a shortage of food or supplies would cause a run on humanity and a fight for survival. As real as anything, right? Anyways, that's it. I could keep going further down the list of mission accomplished. What's beyond that? Keep your doctor, keep your plan. Hope and change. Donald Trump was a Russian bot. Donald Trump's a Russian spy. Donald Trump is crazy. It's stormy. Oh no, that didn't work. We're back through the loop we go again. Again, unique solution, unique problem. They don't have a unique solution. All they can do is create a problem that doesn't really exist, and that's why it's not working. And it's fascinating to watch. And it's fascinating to watch the people who bought into it. And if something switches in all this and I have a different perspective, well then guess what? I'll fucking come right on here and I'll tell you. And I'll tell you where I went wrong and explain to you how it happened. And we'll both learn together. Okay? You have to realize that as things happen and the world changes, all right, whether if it's Benghazi on 9/11 or 9/11 on 9/11, okay, is that, or you had a moonless sky and all of a sudden the moon was brought here. Do you realize in our language that the moon is considered as a plant? I thought that was interesting, considering the tree of life and information as it flows and as it flows as water. Imagine being in a world without the moon, right? And all of a sudden you looked up and there's the fucking moon. And your day has changed. Just like 9/11 changed your day, the moon showing up would change your day. And you'd be like, holy shit. And you'd have the people that would look up and go, I don't believe it. or they would agree, or they wouldn't agree, or they would say that that was a Russian spy. They would say that it was crazy. They would say that it was a white nationalist. Look at the color. They would call it a Nazi. The moon creates storms. They call it stormy. It's the same fucking garbage that they do not ever have anything to stand on. And now it's starting to unravel. Sidney Powell is the name of Mr. Flynn's. That is the name of Mr. Flynn's attorney. So, if they wait on this long enough and more information comes out, by the time they flop this thing on Judge Ellison's desk, whenever this guy finally gets it, he's going to undo this in such a gnarly way that any connected activity that also led to a court case is going to get blown up in the same fashion. So the deeper you let this Flynn charge sink, by the time it explodes, it's going to do more damage. And that's why this slow play out as this goes. And that's it. So God bless America. All right. Enjoy your life. JohnToll.net, and that's it. Class is September 14th. And if you live in the Denver area, if you want to do, I do one-on-one. I'll teach you fucking everything I know. So enjoy your life. I'm going to make some whiskey in the surfers, and Rokfin.com/JT. I've got a YouTube channel at John Toll. Oh my God, please do me a favor and click like on that. Click subscribe. Heaven forbid I have enough people to eventually go live. And I am going live because you're watching this live. Swung on and a miss. Anyways, God bless everybody. We'll talk to you when we talk to you.